Okay, welcome back to the, well, really dusty shop. So obviously we're still working on sanding and filling because, well, there's going to be a lot of it and it's going to take a long time. So, show you where we're at. So at this point, the firewall is pretty well done. It's been blocked I don't know how many times, and I've added filler and remove filler and added filler and remove filler, and it's finally at a point where it's fairly smooth now. It'll get a final block, of course, after it's primed once more. If we come over here to our C-pillar, you can see just how not square it was. Keep in mind that from here to about here is all OEM sheet metal, so that took a bit to get it square, but it is now. And as you can see by my light, I've been working on the rocker. So it's pretty straight and smooth now. Just painting this truck black. Black does not hide anything. So if we come down here, I'm gonna have to add a bit of filler to the cab corner, which I figured that was coming, but I'll also have to, you can see there's a dark spot here. There's one there. And if I rotate my light around, you'll see there's actually a dent here. And there's another low spot in here. So all that'll have to get filled in a little bit. And just where this pitting and stuff is, all that's gonna get filled too, so that when it's sanded and whatnot, it'll look nice and smooth. Now up top here, I put a patch in here obviously, so it's gonna need a little bit of filler. And there's also another patch in here, and there's one up here, so that stuff will all have to get skimmed. But the rest of the pillar itself is actually pretty straight and smooth. And I'll have to come up here and put some filler in here. And there's like a little weird spot here from the factory, because right here is the seam where the pillar and the roof are brazed together. And yes, they are brazed, and there's another little spot here. But overall, it's not too bad. So my goal is kind of to try and get today this side of the truck done, and then I will start working on the other side, and from there that just will leave us the roof and the back of the cab, and then we'll be ready for another coat of epoxy, and then we'll block out the epoxy one more time, and from there it will get its primer sealer, and that will be the cab. I don't want to say ready for paint, but a little bit closer anyway. So I'm into day, I don't know, 3 or 4 of sanding and filling. Like I said, it's a long process, and it will continue to be so. Myself and everything in the shop at this point are covered in dust. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll show you here. So we'll definitely have to wash the floor down before we think of putting any paint anywhere near anything in here. I'll have to blow all the dust off everything so that we don't end up with a paint job full of dust, but you know what, that's life. So firewall is all filled and sanded, and I've been working on this side of the truck, and I've got the C-pillar, which I already showed you is finished pretty much. But I've also been working in here on the sill, so I've got it all filled where we put patches in. And I filled a bit here where it was a little bit pitted, and same thing in the corner here. And I've been working on the rocker, just kind of getting it nice and square, which it didn't take a ton of filler, but it did take some. And back here at the cab corner, I'm gonna have to add a little more filler, because what I'm trying to do is bring it up so that it's nice and level where it meets the rocker here. But that's life aftermarket parts. And I've started sanding the back of the cab here. So what I found is, overall, the back of the cab here is pretty square, but what we have here is a low spot, and we have another low spot in here, one in here. There's a low spot here, but this one I think we can get away with. What I'll do is I'll come in here with a hammer and dolly and just kind of tap the high spot down. And then down here we got a big low spot or a dent. And then obviously where I put the cab corner in, we're going to need some filler down here as well. Coming across the back here, overall, the cab itself is in pretty good shape. Like I said, other than a few dents here, but I mean, the rest of it here is pretty good. Like maybe skim it just a bit here and a little bit over here and a lot right here, because I already knew we had a big dent in here, so this was not a shock. And then I didn't do a great job putting the cab corner in on this side, so this side's going to need some filler to kind of bring all this up level. But that means at this point I fixed the pillar too. Like I said, there was a couple spots on the pillar here that were a little bit low, so I just leveled them back up, and that gets us that kind of fixed. But at this point, the firewall's done. 90% of this side of the truck is done, and I'm now working on the back of the cab, and then we'll work on the other side of the cab, and we'll finish up with the roof, and we'll be ready to put another coat of epoxy on, and we'll be able to move forward from there. All right, so this is about as far as I got this week. Had some overtime that I did at work, which sort of, you know, chewed up some of my spare time. So this coming week we'll finish the back of the cab here, and we will move over to this side of the cab, and we'll get it all prepped and start working on it, and then we'll finish off with the roof of the truck before moving underneath. It intended to have a video for you for Sunday, but as I mentioned, I did some overtime and stuff, and that sort of threw off my schedule for the week. So that's how we ended up with a video today instead. And depending on how the week goes, you might end up with another video about something else that we've bought. But until then, I appreciate you watching, and hopefully you come back and see where we continue on.